Today's date is September 17, 2013. The time is now 7 p.m. A few reminders before we begin. Could I please have you turn cell phones to, either turn them off or set them to vibrate? And we appreciate your cooperation with that request. Welcome, and thank you all for being here this evening. It's always a pleasure to see a full auditorium. That indicates people are interested in what's going on and want to be informed about the issues affecting the city. This evening, Council has the privilege to issue a proclamation declaring September 17 through September 23rd as the Constitution Week. And I believe we have at least one representative from the Daughters of the American Revolution, Ms. Roberta Cordova. Welcome. And thank you for your work in bringing this important issue to the attention of the citizens and highlighting it. It is now my pleasure to read the proclamation. Whereas September 17, 2013 begins the week-long national celebration of Constitution Week, a commemoration of America's most important document, the Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas the United States Constitution stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties and freedom, and to ensure those inalienable rights to every American. And whereas in 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th through the 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week, resulting in the adoption of Public Law Number 915 in 1956, which guarantees the issuance of an annual proclamation by the President of the United States designating September 17 through the 23rd as Constitution Week. And whereas the celebration of Constitution Week aims to emphasize citizens' responsibilities for protecting and defending the Constitution, preserving it for posterity, inform the people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our way of life, and encourage the study of the historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1787, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official resignation to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebration which will commemorate the occasion. Now, therefore, I, Bernadette Baca Gonzalez, Mayor of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, at the request of the Santa Fe Trail Chapter, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2013 as Constitution Week in the City of Trinidad, and I encourage all citizens across the country to take time this week to reflect on our heritage of freedom and to come together to celebrate America. Thank you, and Ms. Cordova, I have your proclamation.
Thank you so much. We
Yes.
appreciate your consideration.
Yes, thank you.
Very much.
Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to request at this time that we take a moment of silence for the 21 victims of yesterday's shooting at the Washington Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. Our thoughts and prayers, of course, are with the families affected by that tragedy and also with our neighbors and communities here in Colorado who have been affected by the destructive floods in our state. Thank you. And Ms. Garrett, I think we're ready for you to conduct the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Spinato?
Yes. Here.
Matei?
Here.
Miles?
Here.
Shu?
Here.
Velasquez?
Here.
Becca Gonzalez?
Here. For the record, a quorum is present and council may proceed with business. As a reminder to my colleagues on City Council, if there is a need for a little break or recess, you just so indicate. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is consideration of approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 3rd, 2013. Are there any corrections or comments? Yes, Ms. Miles.
Yes, I have one on the third page, under miscellaneous business, second paragraph. About 2/3 of the way down, the line starts, and over time will consider whether to allow medical marijuana establishments. After medical marijuana establishments should be inserted to convert to retail sellers. So it now reads, she said that is what the city of Denver has done. They put a moratorium on retail and over time will consider whether to allow medical marijuana establishments to convert to retail sellers.
Are there any other corrections or comments? May I have a motion to approve the minutes? A motion by Ms. Miles, second by Mr. Shu. Any additional comments or questions? And seeing none, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Spinato?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Abstain.
Becca Gonzalez?
Yes. The next agenda item is number 3, and that is to consider an executive session for the following reasons. For a conference with the city's attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024B, discussion regarding the status of the Arkansas River Power Authority litigation, and discussion regarding legal options pertaining to the North Lake Dam Rehabilitation Project. May I have a motion to go into executive session for the stated reason?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. Bolton, and I think I heard a second by Ms. Velasquez. Any discussion or questions? And seeing none, I believe we're ready for the vote.
Bolton?
Yes.
Spinato?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Becca Gonzalez?
Yes. As a reminder to the audience, you are certainly free to stay here. I do not believe we will have a very protracted period of time in executive session, so we should be out shortly, but make yourselves at home and we'll try and get back with you as quickly as possible. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. The time is now 7:52 p.m. and the executive session for September 3, 2013 has concluded. The participants in the executive session were Carol Bolton, Joe Bonato, Anthony Mattei, Michelle Miles, Frank Shu, Linda Velasquez, Bernadette Baca Gonzalez, Les Downs, Tom Aker, and Dixie Nuna. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during that executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record at this time. Seeing none, hearing none. The next agenda item is petitions and communications. This is the opportunity for input to City Council on items that are not scheduled for public hearing at tonight's meeting. Items being considered for formal public hearing will occur later in the meeting at agenda items 7A and 7B. And just as a reminder to everyone, our basic ground rules regarding input to council are as follows. We respectfully request that you respect each speaker's right to present comments without interruption, demonstration, and/or comments being called out from the audience for or against the speaker. You are warned that disruptive behavior will not be tolerated, and failure to abide by this rule will result in a request for the offending party to leave the premises, and failing that, to be removed by authorities. Each speaker will be given up to a total of 3 minutes. And please, if you don't need the full 3 minutes, we appreciate your cooperation. If a group of individuals wishes to express identical opinions, they are requested to allow one person to express the opinions and comments on behalf of the entire group. And citizens are not permitted to donate or allocate their 3-minute time period to other citizens. I do request that citizens address comments and concerns to the mayor or presiding chairperson, not to individual members of city council officials or staff. Members of city council will listen to the comments and concerns, but will not answer questions or engage in debate with the speakers. When called upon, I do request that you step forward to the podium, state your name, and please be sure to speak directly into the microphone. And our first speaker this evening is Mr. Michael Clark.
Hi there, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I would, if you forgive me for interrupting, but I would have a suggestion.
Yes,
If
certainly.
there, I don't think I heard it clearly, and I apologize if you said it and I didn't pick it up, is that if they're speaking on the marijuana, any of the marijuana issues, they should probably speak at that time and not at the petitions and communications.
Would you, I just noticed there's,
Until then,
all right.
that's all I'm speaking about.
Yes, I see Michael Clark, Thomas Clark, I believe Mr. D Phelan, Frank Leone, David Boyer, Jim Bleecker, Tom Paws, Marilyn Losler. I believe all of you anticipate addressing the marijuana issue. Is there any reason? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Haller, I overlooked you. Yes, and Steve Heller. Is there any reason why anybody I mentioned cannot wait until later in the proceeding for the item 7A or 7B? And if not, I think it would be prudent for us to wait till that agenda item. The individual who signed up for the audience to patrons is Mr. Steve Bolton, who apparently will be speaking about the dam. Mr. Bolton,
You know,
welcome.
since this is, most of the people here are for the marijuana, I think I'll wait until the next meeting.
All right, so it's okay if I strike
Sure.
your name from the list?
Yeah,
Okay,
that'd be
thank
great.
you, Mr. Bolton. So we will move on to the next agenda item, which is council reports. And the purpose is to allow individual council members to report on meetings, events, training opportunities, and other activities that they have recently participated in. Last time we started from my far right, and this time we'll start from my far left. And Mr. Bonato, do you have anything to share with us?
Madam Mayor, I just have a few things I would like to address. Thursday, on the 12th, the mayor and I attended the I-25 Coalition meeting, which was held in Walsenburg. And to me, that's going along real fine. It seems like it's coming together. It's going to be probably a lot of hard work to get what we're planning to do to help Southern Colorado, Pueblo, Walsenburg, and Trinidad. There's always a lot of brochures that was supposed to be sent out to the Welcoming Center. I don't know, Tara, if they came down. And also, I'd like to see those put in the tourism trailer. Because when I was down there, they weren't in that tourism trailer. And on the same day, on the 12th, I was appointed to the Purgatory Water Conservation Board, in which this council appointed me as their representative for the city. And I attended that meeting, and I was very glad to be seated there, and I was welcomed with open arms. And the only other thing I have, Madam Mayor, is that I just want to remind the public on Sunday, September the 22nd at 9 a.m. that I'd like to see people from here attend the Ludlow Memorial. It's their 100th anniversary, and it's really a big deal to show your appreciation. And like I say, that starts at 9 a.m. I think it's at 11 a.m. It actually starts at Ludlow.
I remember seeing 9
I
a.m.
think it's either 9 or 11
It's-
It is 11, excuse me, Ms. Marshall confirmed it is 11.
Oh, okay, thank you for getting us
But
straight.
you guys could really attend, it should be really help. That's all I have to report on.
Thank you. Ms. Velasquez. All right, Ms. Miles.
Other than continuing work on the E.R.A lawsuit, which is continuing to proceed even though the date was extended, I had the great pleasure of attending Articade this weekend and participating in the festivities. A group of friends and I, representing my store, put probably over 100 hours of work into our car, and it was great fun. The turnout was 10 deep at some point along the parade route, and so I want to thank the citizens of Trinidad for showing up. We had some terrific entries, a lot of local entries. I've spoken with, and I want to thank Pat Patrick, Rodney Wood, Susan Palmer, and everyone involved for what was the funnest weekend I've had in Trinidad in the 7 years I've been living here. So, also I attended bar at E.R.A. Mitchell.
There you go.
And boy, my back was hurting by the end of the evening because this town can drink a lot. But anyway, thank you to all involved, and I'm really looking forward to next year.
Thank you. And Mr. Mattei.
I too attended Articade and Trendy Fest, and I got the t-shirt and everything, literally. I have one constructive criticism about the Articade parade, however. The street blockage began really early in the morning before the parade actually began, and it eliminated or prohibited access to Century Savings and Loan drive-up the way the streets were blocked, and that probably was not a good neighbor thing to do. And I feel obligated to bring that to our attention so that next year, maybe we do a better job of regulating traffic without interfering with the operations of business. And last night, Tom and I had occasion to attend the CML meeting in La Vida, which was well attended by the cities from Southern Colorado, Starkville, Aguilar, Trinidad, of course. And very informative and very well done. We had a unique presentation by the folks from the former Lathrop Youth Camp, which is now an alternative education situation. And they have some good things happening there with at-risk kids and kids that up to this point have maybe been displaced by society. And so they were very impressive, as were the kids who prepared the meal. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Shu.
No, not much, except I want to thank the tourist board, because they were the ones that really brought the R.O.K. on, and with Mr. Patrick and Rodney, and I think they did an outstanding job. Really made the town well, and then disabled was well presented with all the people and from out of town and everything, so it looked great. And that's it.
Ms. Bolton?
I'd like to echo the sentiments and thanks proffered by Ms. Miles and Mr. Shu regarding the Artocade, and thank all the participants and the sponsors for bringing a wonderful event to town. Also to Kirk and Julie Loudon for the Trinity Fest, very class act. It was just tough to try to do everything at the same time over the same weekend. That's all I have.
I would like to report that I attended the Patriots Day or 9/11 Memorial service at the Welcome Center, and although it rained that morning, the event was well attended. It was very touching. We heard some very inspiring speeches. I also had the pleasure to attend the Trinidad State Junior College Booster Club banquet and meet all those delightful young people who are playing sports for TSJC. I also attended the Trinity Fest Film Festival, which was fantastic, and the Artocade Parade, which made me almost split a gut laughing at some of those vehicles. And last but not least, I would like to thank Pastor Andrea Doden and members of Zion Lutheran Church for having conducted a cleanup along the River Walk, and that was on Saturday, September 7th. And we appreciate all the civic-minded citizens here in town. Thank you. The next agenda item is number 6, and that's reports by the city manager and city attorney. And Mr. Aker, when you're ready, sir, you may proceed.
I'm ready. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. I passed out, or placed at your place tonight, just a written update on several projects. Wanted to try that instead of giving a lengthy report to save Audra some transcription time. So if you have questions, give me a call or send me an email. I will be doing those at least on a monthly basis or as milestones are hit on projects. The only other item of note is I attended the Colorado Passenger Rail Association meeting on Saturday in Pueblo. That is a group that is getting geared up to be very active to work to get funding to save the Southwest Chief. They're going to want to work on behalf of the Southwest Chief and Amtrak to get funding from the state of Colorado and continue to work as a group to help make sure that we can maintain that important rail service. In attendance was a representative from Amtrak, Ray Lang, who's been on numerous trips with us. I think he was on the trip that Ms. Bolton and I took earlier. Gave an explanation of kind of what we're looking at in each segment. Again, we're looking for about $4 million each year coming from transportation, not only for capital improvements over the next 10 years, but also routine maintenance. And then Mr. Klein from La Junta spoke on behalf of some of the local southern Colorado folks as far as trying to make that connection up into Denver and the importance of having Trinidad and extending the north-south line potentially down into Trinidad as well. So we'll continue to have meetings on that, and we'll make sure the council's aware of it and give updates as needed.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members? Mr. Downs, do
Good
you
evening.
have any report or information to share with council?
Madam Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of council, the only item I have is the memo that I prepared for all of you that was at your sitting places. Hopefully you all received that confidential legal memo, so lucky for you, I really can't comment any further. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions about that or any other matters, as always, please feel free to contact me.
We'll study your memo, and then I encourage members of council to communicate with you and Tom if they have any specific questions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions from council for Mr. Downs? Moving right along. The next agenda item is 7A, and that is to hold a public hearing for consideration of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, providing for a moratorium until June 30, 2014 on the submission, acceptance, or processing of applications and the licensing, permitting, establishment, or operation of any recreational marijuana business that sells, cultivates, manufactures, prepares, packages, purchases, tests, or otherwise provides for or allows the use of marijuana or marijuana products pursuant to Amendment 64, approved by the voters of the state of Colorado at the November 6, 2012 general election and codified as Article 18, Section 16 of the Colorado Constitution, including the use of land for such purpose or purposes. I now declare the public hearing open, and I will, just as a point of clarification, Mr. Aker, is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes with the public hearing?
I think you can, given the number, I think you can go up to 5.
Okay, I think 5 minutes is fair. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. And Mr. Michael Clark,
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you.
Prepared really short tonight.
Yes, sir.
Last time my brother and I were here, we gave you copies of 7 U.S. patents that talk about marijuana as medicine. We also gave you an article called Marijuana and the Human Brain. We showed where marijuana works within the human brain and why it is not a drug of abuse. What I gave you was written proof that marijuana is medicine. As it stands now in Trinidad, because of the ban on medical marijuana businesses, there are quite a few card-carrying medical marijuana users who are now forced to drive all the way to Pueblo to get their doctor-recommended legal medicine, and that is just wrong. You're talking about people fighting cancer, Alzheimer's, epilepsy, arthritis, some in great pain, even the pain at the end of life. Many of them are on fixed incomes and can't afford to go all the way to Pueblo to get their medicine. Now that Eric Holder, the United States Attorney General, made his statement about marijuana, especially medical marijuana, you can no longer make the excuse that the federal government is against it. So my question is, what is your justification for continuing to withhold legitimate doctor-recommended legal medicine from the sick in your care? Your vote will certainly reveal where your heart is as leaders, and maybe show us why Trinidad seems to be dying on the vine. This time, instead of just voting for what seems safe, vote for what is right, and lift your ban on medical marijuana businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The next speaker is Mr. Thomas Clark. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. I got a quote for you. Humans have built-in endogenous cannabinoid systems which control every cellular function the body makes. National Institute of Health this year. Go over that one more time. Humans have built-in endogenous cannabinoid systems which control every cellular function the body makes. What's a cannabinoidal system? What are cannabinoids? Well, a cannabinoidal system is a system in your body that uses cannabinoids to make the body function. Cannabinoids are a group of molecules that have the same kind of footprint, and that footprint fits in the receptors of every cell in your body. Where do you get cannabinoids? You get cannabinoids from the cannabis plant, the hemp plant, marijuana. Are there any other sources in this whole world for cannabinoids? No. The marijuana plant, this tree, is symbiotic with man. It's meant for man to walk with it. What do we do if we starve this system? Well, the human body, in some way, ceases to function. It's sick. All of the immune system diseases. Organs fail. Cancers erupt. And basically, the very thing that we all face every day. And the older we get, the more we face it. To me, it doesn't make good sense at all to say no to the very system that saves you. Now, Mick and I have walked around for 20 years now and told about everybody we've met that marijuana is the tree of life, the biblical tree of life. And basically, we've gotten a lot of blank stares. What's the tree of life? On either side of the river was the tree of life, bearing 12 kinds of fruit and yielding its fruit every month.
It's been 5 minutes, sir.
And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations, and there shall no longer be any curse. That's Revelations 2:22-2. We need to accept this plan. We need to move on.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The next speaker is Mr. D Phelan. Welcome, Mr. Phelan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. The discussions evolving around this marijuana issue are very simplistic. And while the focus today is being camouflaged under the disguise of dispensaries for medical use, let's be clear here, the intention is much larger than that. So my question is, does the city want to trade its economic security that resides today, even as little as they may think that may be, for a potential smaller share of tax revenue from a small sector-specific focus like marijuana? I'm concerned that during this whole process, there has been no city official that has come out and contacted us business owners whom have millions invested into this community. Brick and mortar businesses that will have to struggle and deal with the decisions this council implements. Individual businesses with tens if not hundreds of employees each conducting millions in sales and tax revenue, along with the added benefit their payrolls bring. Businesses that will be forced with additional costs like drug testing, rising insurance rates, on top of the ever ridiculously high utility costs and other higher costs to do business here. In 2012, the Trinidad McDonald's conducted 361,103 transactions, serving more than 790,000 guests. Those guests today are worried. Most arrive here from more conservative areas. Statistically, people will stop in Trinidad, spend X amount of money. Our job is to get them to stay. If they stay, they spend 3 times X. If they spend the night, it's 10 times X. Nice area, but if they pass these drug laws, we won't stop, let alone stay. Raton, Bostonburg isn't that much further, are the comments I receive. I can remember just a short while ago, this council banned a planned dancer club. Allowing marijuana sales, you will lose the moral authority in preventing those businesses of moral turpitude. Article 20 of the Colorado Constitution permits this council the ability to ban this process, a process that is already banned by the federal government and banned by more than 50 counties and cities across Colorado since the passing of the amendment. I understand that while the federal and state administrations have turned a blind eye to the processes, these administrations will change, and Colorado has already begun to experience that change. For the true reason why this town is drying up isn't that it's not selling marijuana. It's that it doesn't have a focus on a long-range economic development plan to attract responsible companies to the area. It's because its utilities and infrastructure are not cost effective. This council needs to find projects that can build this community together, but I never thought that selling drugs would become our town's hope for a better future. This city council should believe that it is in the best interest of the peace, health, and safety of this community to ban marijuana sales within its city limits and return its focus to more important matters of real economic development and serious job creation.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. The next speaker is Mr. Frank Leone. Welcome, Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. I was here last time we had a special meeting. Kind of voiced my opinions on as far as how it affects me in my business as a no tolerance at all. I know most of you probably have been, it's a very situation that you probably have thought a lot about, and probably maybe some of you have already made up your minds. But I decided to get up here anyway, and my wife says, "Well, maybe you better not go up there." I said, "Well, I guess I can voice my opinion." Anyway, there was a couple of things that were said tonight that were false. One of them was traveling to Pueblo. Pueblo doesn't allow marijuana in the city. It's a county that allows that. And looking on the Colorado website, .gov, only 1.3% of Los Angeles County population uses medical marijuana. My calculations are right. And there's some things I'm not good in, but math is one that I am. That goes to about 206 people to 209 people in Los Angeles County, which would bring in approximately anywhere from $700 to $900 a month. In my opinion, that ain't enough money. You wouldn't even have enough money to pay an officer or two, or pay the insurance to take care of that. Why should we change Trinidad for a few that need medical marijuana? If they need medical marijuana, let them go to Pueblo County and get it. Medical marijuana stores, friends, will deter family-oriented tourism. I think marijuana will tarnish the image and reputation of Trinidad. It will also discourage sustainable businesses from coming to Trinidad. Marijuana will ultimately reach and harm local children. And because it's on a cash-only basis, I think that you're going to have a lot of cash, and I don't think you're going to be able to collect the taxes on it. And it's still considered as a Schedule I drug. I would entertain you to really think about your decisions that you have to make, and make them in the proper manner, and make them for all the people of Trinidad, not just some. Thank you.
Mr. Leone. Our next speaker is David Boyer. Okay, pronounce that correctly. Welcome.
First meeting here, I'd like to greet Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
I'm a letter carrier for the United States Postal Service for 25 years, 26 years now. When I got hired at the post office, I took a drug test. And today, anyone that's hired by the Postal Service takes a drug test. If you smoke marijuana, you will not be hired by the U.S. Postal Service. It's a good paying job, but unfortunately, anybody that gets caught on drugs that is working for the Postal Service, they will go over there and get removed and fired. I carried mail for a lot of years, and what I can tell you approximately who's taking drugs, marijuana, and who's not taking marijuana because of where I deliver. The people that are taking marijuana, most of them are on welfare, and while they go there and take the marijuana, they personally will never able to get a job. I know one instance here in town where he was working at a restaurant, he was smoking marijuana on the premises, and he was removed from working with that company. One time I saw, it's summer, it's hot, and this is in town here. I saw a mother with her 1-year-old son and her mother. They were in a car with all the windows closed, and they were smoking pot with that 1-year-old baby inside that car. And they were laughing and having a great time. They had the windows closed because they could get higher if they did that. I also, while working over for the Allen mine, I used to go get in a carpool for a very short time. They would smoke marijuana on the way up to the mine. And one of the guys happened to be in my section. He was a shuttle car runner. That's one guy. Would you want to be working around somebody that is driving a big piece of machinery and he's high on marijuana? This is something that Trinidad does not need here. And I would go there and boycott the sale of marijuana here in town for eternity. If you want to think about the young people and hopefully get them off of the drug thing. And believe me, there's a lot of kids and a lot of people that are on drugs now. And I see it every day on my job. And I can tell you who's selling the drugs. When a car comes up, young kid, they go into a house, they get something, and then they immediately leave, and you see that constantly. They're probably selling drugs there. This is something that we need to keep a ban on the marijuana. If I've seen too many young people that they're all smoking every single day, and that's what they do, and they will never ever be able to get off the welfare. Never. As long as they're on the drugs. Does this mean that means everybody? No. My brother, he was smoking.
It's fine.
Sure,
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. The next speaker is Mr. Jim Bleecker. Mr. Bleecker.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My wife and I live in Trinidad and plan to retire here. We left the Denver area for Trinidad because we look forward to the lack of traffic, a historic small town atmosphere, clean air, and lower crime rates. We really liked what we've seen here. We heard that medical marijuana and recreational marijuana would provide enhanced benefits to our citizens who suffer from a variety of maladies and provide financial benefit to the community due to increased tax revenues. I say baloney. Do we really want to add another division of city government to monitor and manage and enforce a new set of regulations for the sale of marijuana and homegrown marijuana? Do we want that here? What happens to city revenues, tax revenues, when people start growing their own to get around the cost of buying it? There's no revenues there. Do we really want people flocking to Trinidad to purchase marijuana from other states and then driving around the city stoned? Do we want them driving back to New Mexico and Texas stoned? Does the city of Trinidad really want to sacrifice a rich history and quality of life for the financial gain of a few marijuana dealers? I think not. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mr. Tom Paws. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. This will be kind of brief. As far as recreation use of marijuana, I'm 100% against it. The guy who spoke about 2 weeks ago about having to go to Pueblo for recreational marijuana must have understood that it was dangerous. He stated that he got in Pueblo, lit it up, he'd be a hazard on the road coming down here on an open space road. He could cause an accident. If he lit it up at home, got in his car, and with his judgment and off of his mind is off, which is more traffic here in town, he's possibly going to kill a pedestrian or have multiple accidents and maybe injure other people. As far as medical marijuana, I'm 110% for it, but it's hard for me to believe that there's 206 people in Trinidad that needs medical marijuana. I look at more like 10 or 15, something like that. It's hard for me to believe that doctors are providing that for them. You don't know pain until you really have it. I'm in constant pain myself. I have neuropathy. On top of my feet, they're numb. I have no feeling. Bottom of my feet is like walking on coals all the time. I've had a bad back, wear a belt that shoots electrodes through my back while I'm working. I had 4 stents just put in my heart. 2 months ago, half my right lung doesn't work. I've got a bad hip, bad knee. Though I would not use the marijuana, I'm on Vicodin. There are worse people than me that needs it, and if it's going to help them, really help them, I'd say go for the marijuana medicinal only. If you haven't really had the bad pain, don't judge other people if it helps them. They need it, they should have it. I'm 110% for it, but I still do not believe 206 people in this town needs it. There's one other thing, Mayor Backa. Something happened, and I don't need your husband, I don't mean to bring this up, to tell me how to run my campaign. I'm running for city council myself. I placed some flyers up at Walmart where I work 12 hours a week. And he went running, your husband went running to one of my bosses complaining that I was putting flyers on cars and possibly trying to get me fired. I talked to Audra, she said it was okay to put flyers on cars. I just want to let you know that I don't appreciate what he did one bit, and he better not do it again. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ms. Marilyn Losler. Welcome, Ms. Losler.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of council, mine's going to be kind of short. I try to read and learn as much as I possibly can gather about various issues and make my decisions accordingly. And I would like to say that I'm hoping you approve the use of medical marijuana, and I say that for a couple of reasons. I have both a close family member and 2 or 3 dear friends who have been diagnosed with cancer and various other illnesses, who got through their chemo and got through radiation therapy by use of medical marijuana. Not all of them continued to use it. They went through their therapies, and that was the end of it. It was used as a medicinal aid to their treatment. So while I was reading as much as I could possibly find about this, I found that it's difficult, first of all, to have a lot of data and evaluation currently because Colorado and Oregon have just started this process. So we don't have 10 years of data to look at. I found wonderful sites that quoted various people on both sides of the issue, and I read through both of these sides. Two things that kind of stood out to me were quotes from Dr. Sanjay Gupta, whom I'm sure you all are aware of, and he has changed his opinion from being against medical marijuana to being pro-use of medical marijuana for medicinal treatment. And that was after numerous research into various research programs that were conducted across the country, and finding that there's more to it than just smoking pot and getting better or whatever. He did a lot of research looking into this, and he has changed his opinion, very, very vocally so, and has apologized for being against it earlier. The second thing that I found was a quote from Montel Williams, who suffers from MS. I'll just read this to you. It struck me. How dare someone tell me they can prescribe morphine, Vicodin, Percocet, make the drugs most addictive, name the most addictive drug they can give me, and I can be a walking member of the society by taking that garbage. But my doctor, who has prescribed it for me, can't prescribe medical marijuana. Why? Because we have an idea. Everybody who does it sits around smoking. There are 50 different ways to utilize it. You can eat it, you can process it into a liquid, or you can turn it into a pill form. The willow tree was taken apart about 200 years ago and turned into aspirin, and we all take it. So that struck me quite profoundly. So again, my personal opinion is that we should allow medical marijuana, and that's how I feel about it. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Mr. Steve Haller, and I apologize, the abbreviations you put there, I thought it was Walmart.
You know, I'm an ex-teacher, so my writing, you know, you gotta make allowances. Well, we've had some good arguments for and against, and I appreciate everybody's position. What I'm going to say, hopefully, is not repeating myself, or repeating what's been already said. What I'm going to suggest is let's take the middle ground and support medical marijuana. I think we've already put off the idea of recreational marijuana until June, unless I've read it incorrectly. You know, a majority of Coloradans voted to legalize marijuana, and about 70%, according to the paper, of Trinidadians have spoken in favor of at least medical marijuana. You know, the council is able to regulate locations and number of businesses. I don't see it being on Main Street. I see it down maybe a side street with one of the green crosses. And people that need medical marijuana will be able to find it. They're not going to be driving around, and I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the appearance of the city. One must realize, too, that we actually have marijuana sales in Trinidad. That's a fact. The question is, do we want to leave sales in the hands of pushers who promote sales by giving samples to our youth? You know, they're out there on a business. They want to get that money, and they will do anything they can to get people hooked on the drugs. If it's legalized, we cut the ground out from them. And so I think it's better to legalize and regulate. Plus, we can gain much needed tax revenue, and we may have people coming in from other parts of the county or even the state to buy. Anyway, as I've said before, and I think I did this in a previous presentation, prohibition doesn't work. I mean, I'm a history buff and a history major. And again, Ken Burns' whole thing on prohibition versus alcohol was amazing. And alcohol is a much dangerous drug. So many deaths. It's been reported that the number of deaths from alcohol is staggering. The number of deaths from marijuana is 0. There's not been any, anyway, of abuse of it. So prohibition drives it underground. So really the argument against it are really all moot, even if they're good arguments. To sum up, if you want to support the criminal element, then I think you vote no on this. If you wish to exacerbate the sufferings of some of your fellow citizens by forcing them to travel 170 miles round trip to Pueblo to legally buy marijuana, then vote no. Thank you.
Are there any comments from Mr. Aker or Mr. Downs?
No, ma'am.
Any comments from members of council? I will now declare the public hearing closed. And Ms. Garrett, will you please read the title portion of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, providing for a moratorium until June 30th, 2014 on the submission, acceptance, or processing of applications and the licensing, permitting, establishment, or operation of any recreational marijuana business that sells, cultivates, manufactures, prepares, packages, purchases, tests, or otherwise provides for or allows the use of marijuana or marijuana products pursuant to Amendment 64, approved by the voters of the state of Colorado at the November 6, 2012 general election, and codified as Article 18, Section 16 of the Colorado Constitution, including the use of land for such purpose or purposes.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mattei.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bolton. Any discussion or questions? And I believe we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
No.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
No. The next agenda item is 7B, and that is to hold a public hearing for consideration of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, enacting Article 12, Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances regarding retail marijuana local licensing authority. This provision provides that if there is a decision to engage in retail sales of marijuana, then in that event, the City of Trinidad would become the local licensing authority. Public comments should be related to whether or not the City of Trinidad, instead of the state, should be the local licensing authority. Did I do a good synopsis of that, Mr.?
You did.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
I will now declare the public hearing open and invite anyone who cares to comment on that issue to please step forward to the podium and offer your comments. Seeing none from the, oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I think I remember you're Mr.
Lopez.
Lopez, that's right.
Yes. Now, this is for you guys to regulate as opposed to the state having control.
That's
I
correct.
think that if this goes through, it would behoove you all to do so, because then you don't have Big Brother on top of you telling, and then you guys feel like you're a marionette there doing the dance. That's my point.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else? And seeing none, are there any comments from Mr. Downs or Mr. Aker?
No, Madam Mayor.
How about from council? And being none, the hearing is closed. And Ms. Garrett, will you please read the title portion of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, enacting Article 12, Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances regarding retail marijuana local licensing authority.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Ms. Miles, and I'll record that as a second by Ms. Bolton. Any discussion or questions? And I believe we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Becca Gonzalez?
Yes. The next agenda item is 7C. There are some options available for council's consideration concerning medical marijuana. My understanding is option 1 is to direct staff to develop an ordinance for the development of a land use code and development of licensing regulations for and in connection with medical marijuana on or before March 1, 2014. Or option 2, whereby council may proceed with the first reading of an ordinance, and if so, then a decision must be made about which of 2 possible ordinances should be selected for first reading. I would suggest we open the floor first to discussion about which option. Mr. Aker, I'm sorry, did I misstate something?
Slightly, if I could add a clarification.
Yes, sir.
On the ordinances that could be considered for first reading, it's staff's recommendation that those would be considered together, to where if you adopt one, you need to consider the other one, because they're tied together.
Okay, so they're two,
They're
oh,
tied-
I'm
they
sorry,
need to
I
be tied
misunderstood.
together.
Work hand in glove.
They work hand in glove,
You
yes.
don't have to pass the first one if you haven't passed the second. Well,
Correct.
it's got to go hand in glove with the land use. And
Right,
and
that's
the ordinance ultimately.
So if we go the route of the ordinance, staff's recommendation is that the 2 ordinances move forward.
Yes, you should consider them both.
Okay.
They need to be separate actions, but the first ordinance effectively removes the current prohibition. The second one allows us, similarly to the motion, direct staff to draft some ordinances by March 1st.
Are there any questions or clarification?
No, I'd make a motion directing staff to develop an ordinance for the development of a land use code and development of licensing regulations for and in connection with medical marijuana on or before March 1st, 2014.
Second?
Motion by Ms. Bolton, second by Ms. Miles. Any discussion or questions from council? I have one question, Mr. Downs. There's voluminous material that we looked through, and I want to make sure I understand. If we approve medical marijuana, we are also approving grow facilities within the city limits of Trinidad, Colorado. Is that correct?
It actually is not necessarily correct. And the types of licenses that you approve will be up to you. And there's a strong move afoot, even though some people have said no. Sorry, I tried to shut that off. Thanks, Steve. That's right. Yeah, my time's up. But not, it's not incumbent upon you or required that grow facilities are also going to be allowed in the community.
Okay. Home grow, you can
Right,
have up to
absolutely.
6 plants currently.
That's right.
Now you can be growing them right now.
That's right.
That's a matter of possession for a cardholder of medical marijuana.
Yes, you have to have the
Totally
card.
unrelated
That's
to
correct.
64.
Exactly. Amendment 64 is retail marijuana. That's the individual granting of rights, and that allows people to possess and cultivate with the restrictions that are part of Amendment 64. But that's right. That's the individual granting of rights. But it's not required that you allow a cultivation facility if you go forward on medical marijuana.
And maybe I'm confused because I think I recall either reading or seeing a report that in Denver, like 60 or 70% of the marijuana at a medical dispensary has to be grown at the facility.
That's
Does
right.
that rule apply to Trinidad if we adopt the medical marijuana?
A number of people have said, and I asked Ms. Allen this specifically about vertical integration and the accountability of stem to sale. It does seem like there's an attempt to have that accountability, but it seems to me that it means that they're accountable. It doesn't mean that the cultivation facility is in the community. They don't have to grow it necessarily in Trinidad or Los Animas County, but they can have other places for which they provide the marijuana that they will sell in a medical marijuana facility.
So, just hypothetically, just to get it clear in my head, if I have ABC medical marijuana dispensary in Trinidad, and then I have an ABC affiliate growing facility in Denver, would that satisfy that 70% requirement?
That is my understanding. In other words, it's not required if you have someone who, one person who has a medical marijuana facility, whatever their volume will be, that they cultivate 70% of what they are going to be selling on site or on the premises. That's not required.
I was just concerned about that because the grow facilities are pretty complicated.
Absolutely.
There's nuisances from odors, there's air handling requirements, and if that is part and parcel with the medical marijuana, I think that needs to be abundantly clear.
Understood. And there is going to be a great deal of requirements. I mean, this hasn't been huge for medical marijuana thus far, but I think this portion of retail marijuana is going to carry over in terms of labeling, the potency effect, everything that is in there. Also certifications that it's pesticide free, and I think those things are probably going to be carrying over to medical marijuana as well.
Been studied.
Good.
This
Good.
is just the code for the medical marijuana.
And a cure for insomnia. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for answering my questions. Any other questions or comments? And I think we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Bernardo?
No.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
No.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
No. And at this time, I really would like to take a point of personal privilege. And I'd like to make the following statement.
Can we know what the count was if she goes pretty
4 to 3.
fast?
4 to 3.
4 to 3 in
Yes,
favor?
4 to 3. I personally believe that the majority of citizens in Trinidad do not want marijuana to be readily available in Trinidad. Some individuals may say that marijuana is already here illegally, so why not sell it in regulated storefronts? To that, I say, 2 wrongs do not make a right. The fact is, federal law lists marijuana as a Schedule I drug with no accepted medical purpose. Federal law sees no distinction between alleged medical or recreational marijuana. Federal law still overrules state and local laws. Colorado state and Trinidad local laws cannot and will not provide guaranteed protection from federal prosecution for those who choose to possess, sell, or to cultivate marijuana. Presently in this county, 1.37% of the entire population of Los Animas County is authorized by state law to consume medical marijuana. This is a very small percentage of this county's population. Is asking those few to drive to Pueblo County in order to buy their medicine such an intolerable inconvenience that we must open marijuana stores within the Trinidad city limits. Oh, that there should be such weeping and gnashing of teeth for the residents who routinely drive out of Trinidad in order to have their babies, to obtain dialysis, or to obtain chemotherapy. I believe it is the almighty dollar, not claimed inconvenience, that is the real issue here. Who are in last stage cancer or hospice care. Thank you.
I'd also like to make a statement and respond to some of your comments.
Yes.
One of the premises of your logic is that two wrongs don't make a right. But then in the very next paragraph, you talk about, well, because pregnant women have to drive to Pueblo, we shouldn't have medical marijuana. Isn't that another example of two wrongs don't make a, trying to make a right?
I think that's an example of skewed priorities. Skewed priorities.
I don't think it is. I think it's two wrongs trying to make a right. I'd also like to comment on the federal laws. They're rooted in the 1930s, and it's about time Trinidad moved into the 21st century.
I too would like to make a comment. I think that the times of the tide are changing in the way, I too have researched marijuana back to before Christ, it seems. And the point I'm trying to painfully make, as you know, my personal situation, being a police officer and such for all those years, is that while I do not support recreational marijuana or retail for the sake of getting high and trying to generate a bunch of bucks, I do see the benefit to persons who have a medicinal need. The fact that people have to travel elsewhere to have their babies or to get chemotherapy is not anything I have any control over. That's a hospital problem. And I'm finding out something about why that exists, but I can't do anything about it. I can do something about the people who suffer and have need for marijuana as a benefit, as Ms. Losler pointed out, however temporary the need may be, to get them through those rough spots. And I have some ability to help those people. Biblically it says, whatever you do to the least of my brothers. And I'm thinking, here we have people in genuine need, and we should be able to accommodate them. And consistent with what Michelle is saying, earlier it was pointed out that Trinidad may not be ready for this. I don't know that Trinidad has ever been ready for anything. And it's the position we're in. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I've lived here my whole life. And many of you have too. You remember 2 Safeway stores, 4 pharmacies downtown, men's clothing stores all over the place, Dufton's, Alpert, Chickabone. If you wanted to buy a stove or an appliance, it was easily done. You had several options. We are swirling, and I'm not suggesting that marijuana be the redemption to our economic woes, but I am, consistent with what Michelle says, suggesting that we need to be proactive about our lot, and this is a very small step in which we can be proactive about a small amount. And it has been pointed out by the gentleman from Texas who wrote his letter, to which he refers to us as you people. I find that offensive, but be that as it may, he says people are going to see that green cross and go on, and that may be true. But the research I have done indicates that there are numerous medical marijuana facilities in Manitou Springs, which is probably Colorado's premier tourist attraction place. And people go there anyway. And if I was driving through some place where I saw a green cross, and I don't advocate marijuana leaves making a border around an entire building or a flag, but a discrete green cross, it would tell me, here are people who care about their people. Here are people who are not afraid to embrace cutting-edge technology and changes and reevaluation of priorities in life. And maybe I am willing to invest myself in somebody that's progressive rather than somebody who is stagnant in obsolete tradition. One additional comment, again, I've many times mentioned, it's a matter of personal choice. You don't have to do it. like so many things in life, and we cannot legislate a course for people to travel from birth to death where they never come afoul of any danger in life. We have to teach people how to navigate all those hazards so that they make their way successfully through life.
Any other comments?
Well, I'd just like to further add, as you weigh the evidence pro and con, there are all these risks. We're going to have people lying in the streets. We're going to have increased crime rates. The cost of enforcement is going to exceed the tax revenues. I don't know of a single jurisdiction that has enacted medical marijuana that's walked backwards from it. If there is, point it out to me, but I'll bet you it's 1 in 1,000. So I think that's the evidence. People embrace it, they see it, and they keep it going. And we'll just leave it at that.
I think we're probably ready to move to the agenda item unless anybody else wants to chime in. The next agenda item is 8A, and that's a hotel and restaurant liquor license renewal request by LLC Limited Liability Corporation, doing business as Main Street Tap House, located at 308 West Main Street. And Mr. Garluzzo, I see you back there. I believe you're the representative here for LLC. Welcome. Are there any questions from members of council regarding the packet?
Now, did you indicate that Mr. Garluzzo is here?
Yes, sir. He's in the back.
I just wanted to commend him on doing such a great job this past year. Everything appears to be in order, and there were absolutely no adverse reports from any of the agencies.
If everything is in order, I believe we are ready to entertain a motion to renew the hotel and restaurant liquor license for LLC Limited Liability Corporation, doing business as Main Street Tap House, located at 308 West Main Street.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Shu.
Second.
Second by Ms. Miles. Any discussion or questions? And I think we're ready for the roll call.
Walton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez? Yes. Beck Gonzalez?
Yes.
Before we get away from this, just for the sake of information, could next week you guys provide to us the number of liquor licenses we have in the city of Trinidad?
Sure.
Yes. Both in terms of liquor stores and little bars?
Yes, sir.
Does Ms. Garrett know? She knows.
You've got 39.
39.
39.
With liquor stores,
Hotel restaurants, I think, I want to say 8 liquor stores.
Colorado has the 3rd highest incidence of liquor stores per capita, and Trinidad has 3 times the Colorado average.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett.
I would observe that there's a big difference that the federal prosecutor's office isn't going to come swinging down on the alcohol is recognized. That's just alcohol and tobacco. They're legal. That's just the reality.
Both of which are killing people by the thousands.
But the federal
Because they're
government.
making bad choices.
Can we bring
This
this
is
order?
getting out of our
All
control, and I
right.
apologize.
All right. Let's go to agenda
I got
item
it. I don't need you
8B.
telling me to maintain my order. I just asked you to bring it.
Gentlemen, please. We're at agenda item 8B, which is to consider approval of property, casualty, and workers' compensation insurance coverage renewal through the Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency for 2014. And Mr. Egger, do you have any comment on this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. At the last meeting where these were considered, there were a couple of questions that were raised that I didn't have the information at that time to answer it.
Okay.
For our property and casualty, just to make everyone aware, in this year, our total cost has been or total premium cost has been roughly $248,000. 2014, it looks like it's going up approximately 20%. Again, round numbers to about $298,000. We did do the analysis on if we should increase the deductible. And looking at our claims history, CIRSA gave us some information. It looks like we would really not see any savings by increasing our deductible for property and casualty at this time. We're at $1,000. If we were to go to $2,500 across the board, we might see a potential increase of about $4,000 between our annual contribution and deductible billings. So my thought is to leave it at $1,000 at this time. And then under workman's compensation, a little bit better news. This year for 2013, our cost of a premium is about $371,000. In 2014, it looks like it's going to be just a little bit over $368,000. So a little bit of a decrease, just below 1%. We did take a look again, asked CIRSA, since they've got the ready data, to kind of look at if we were to go to $500 or $1,000 or $2,500 for deductible, because right now we're currently at $0. If we did do the first alternative going to about $500, we might see a potential savings of about $6,400. That's if we maintain our level and don't have any workman's comp claims that increase our billings in the following year. If we went up to $1,000, it might be a $12,000 potential savings, and then alternative 3, it's about a $10,000 potential savings. My thought on that is it's always a risk by going with your deductibles. Again, I think I would recommend for at least next year and to make sure we get a good track record of having a decreasing workman's comp, is that we maybe hold the line, because it could take one claim to get us to lose those savings. So I want to continue to monitor it. We're putting it in as a increased awareness for staff by updating the safety manual and tying that to reviews and making sure that we have everything, and take a look at this next year.
So basically, at the end of the day, it's $50,000 more for next year than we paid this current budget year.
7.5%.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. If everything is in order, I will entertain a motion to approve the insurance coverage renewal with the Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency as presented.
I have a question. And that is, how many work comp claims did we have in the past 12 months?
I don't have that off the top of my head, and I didn't ask that question. I will get that for you, ma'am.
Because that
does have a bearing.
It does.
Yes. I will send that out, get it tomorrow and send it out to everyone.
Then do we need to table this until we have all the information?
Should.
Is there time of the essence in terms that we have to give word back to CIRSA?
We can, I believe it will be fine to table it. We can bring it back. If we have to bring it back, we need it in October, we need to sign off on it. So we can still bring it back.
Ms. Bolton, you're sponsoring a motion to table this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have a second? Mr. Venato will second. Any discussion or questions? And I believe we're ready for a roll call on the motion to table this agenda item.
Bolton?
Yes.
Donato?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Beck Gonzalez?
Yes. The next agenda item is item 8C, and that is to consider setting a public hearing date for the capital budget estimates and the 2014 annual budget. And Mr. Aker, do you have any comments on this item?
The only comment I will make is that per charter, we are going to bring the first draft budget on October 1st. And in keeping with the charter, within about 15 days following that, we've got to have our public hearing to have input. We are going to bring a budget discussion to City Council next week, a presentation by staff in advance of having the draft budget for City Council, to go over some of the changes that we're seeing coming through staff for next year. So we're gonna start the budget process. Actually, staff has been working on it, and we'll bring it to city council.
Very well. And I believe the proposed date for this hearing is October 15?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If everything is in order, I will entertain a motion to approve the setting of a public hearing date for October 15, 2013 for capital budget estimates and the 2014 annual budget.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Benato, second by Mr. Shu. Any discussion or questions?
While I agree we need to get started on the 2014 budget process, we have yet to go back and revisit the nonprofits and other agency funding for the last half of 2013.
We'll include that in next week's information and discussion for city council.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I believe we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
I'm sorry, yes.
I just have a question. Sorry, my fault.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes. The next agenda item, and I'll let you get that queued up, Audrey. Don't kill yourself. The next agenda item is 8D, and that's consideration of contract modification request for engineering services related to the North Lake Dam Rehabilitation Project. And Mr. Aker, do you have any comment on this item?
Only if council's got questions. I think we pretty much went through it last week. Mr. Graver is here. We will be having, we actually moved our project update meetings to Wednesdays, and we'll have one tomorrow, and we'll send out an update at that time.
Very good. Thank you for being here, Mr. Graver.
No question.
Let's see if we get a motion on the floor. If everything is in order, I will entertain a motion to approve the contract modification request as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shu,
Second.
second by Mr. Benato. And now we will entertain any questions or discussion. And seeing none, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes. Thank you for being here, Mr. Graver.
Thank you, Mike.
The next agenda item is number 9, and that's payment of bills. Are there any questions regarding the bills? Yes,
I
sir.
have one, please. On page 7, check 1006 to the AutoZone commercial. I looked down there and it says GM tire robo arm. Out for $2,100. I don't know what that is. That's a lot of money for a part. I didn't know that.
I can explain that, and I don't know, Mr. Hadaway's still not here. That is an arm that mounts to the tire changer that we've got in the shop and allows safer removal of some of the larger truck tires that we've got.
Like a turntable?
Yes. So that's what that is. They asked me if they could get it. We took a look at their budget and I approved it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms.
Yes.
Bolton.
Page 1, Sun Construction Inc. It looks like a credit of $2,840.42.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
We've had some, as we've discovered in our latest round of discussions with Sun Construction, we were not withholding some of our retainage correctly. Our contract was put together in 2011. There's been some changes in state statute where we can't withhold as much as we were. So we adjusted some checks, and to make the tracking for later on, we did a credit back, and then we've issued some other checks to offset that.
Also on page 16, I see a substantial payment to Sun Construction for North Lake Dam rehabilitation. I also see a substantial payment to Sunflower Construction for North Lake Dam rehabilitation. Who is Sunflower?
That was a mistake on the check. That check was voided and it should be Sun Construction.
Okay, so, so there were two payments made to Sun Construction, one in the amount of $56,808 and a second $44,223?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And I think we're ready. Did we do the motion yet? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I need a motion.
Make the motion to pay the bills.
Oh, second. Motion by Mr. Shu, second by Ms. Bolton. And without, unless there's further comment or questions, we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes. The next agenda item is number 10, and that's approval of payroll. May I have a motion to approve the payroll for the time period from August 31, 2013 through September 13, 2013?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Bolton, second by Ms. Velasquez. Any discussion or questions? And I think we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes. Having completed all posted business for the regular meeting, may I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Miles, second by Ms. Velasquez. Any discussion? And I think we're ready for the roll call.
Bolton?
Yes.
Benado?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Velasquez?
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes. Thank you. The time is now 9:14 p.m. and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.